Can you remain normal when things around you are abnormal, or when people around you are behaving abnormally? That is the braveness that we need to develop. When everything is calm and peaceful, you say, my mind is calm. What is the big deal? Anybody can do that. But the challenge is to retain the calmness. That is the important thing. Take the example of Sant Tukaram. He was a great saint of Maharashtra. His wife had a terrible nature. She used to keep fighting with him. So Mahabharata would continue at home all the time. One day there was nothing at home. And Sant Tukaram was doing his bhajan, Rukmini Vitthal, Rukmini Vitthal, Rukmini Vitthal. The wife burst forth on him, what are you doing? Go and sit in your shop, earn something, there is nothing to cook out here. So Sant Tukaram obeyed the high command and he went to the shop. Now he earned his daily income, purchased some groceries. When he was coming back, he found some beggars, he kept giving to them in charity. And when he reached home, he only had one ganna, one sugar cane. He told his wife, this is all I have got today. She got so mad at him, she lifted it and hit it on his head. It broke into two. You see, she must have really hit it hard for it to break into two. So, Sant Tukaram was not ruffled by it. He said, oh, it's split. Never mind, you take one, I will take one. We had to break it. And then he went into his puja room. And he said, oh, Rukmini Vitthal, you are so kind, so merciful. You have given me such a wife that I can never become attached to this world. You see, this is the positive nature. The positive nature is that I should not let the disturbance come into my mind. The external disturbances, see in them a blessing. Everything is happening for the good. So he is seeing in that situation the blessing of God. We must learn from Ratan Tata how to handle people who have hurt us. Ratan Tata took over as the chairman of Tata Motors in India in 1991. And he had this dream project of making an indigenous car in India without any imported technology. And in 1998, the Indica was launched. The Indica was India's first indigenous car. But in 1999, in the space of 1 year, they realized it was not doing well. And they put it up for sale. At that time, Ford Motors expressed interest in purchasing this car factory. So Ratan Tata flew to Detroit with his entire board, and they had a meeting with Bill Ford and their members. And Bill Ford, he insulted Ratan Tata. He said, you don't know anything about the car business. Why did you get into it? Ratan Tata was quiet. That evening, he was in deep thought. He didn't go back to the meeting next day. He took his board members and flew to India. And there he focused on the motor line. And he made it a world-class business until they were producing some of the most famous and best-selling brands in the world. And in 2008, the wheel turned around. Ford Motors was close to bankruptcy. And two of their lines were doing very badly. One was the Jaguar car and the other Land Rover. Jaguar and Land Rover. So Tata Motors offered to purchase these cars. And Bill Ford arrived in Bombay for a discussion. And he said to Ratan Tata, "You're doing us a favor by purchasing these cars." Ratan Tata was quiet. He could have hurt the other, but he understood the simple principle. If there is a line drawn and you want to make it small, you don't have to rub it off. You draw a bigger line by the side of it. So if somebody has hurt you, the best thing is to become even better. That is the best way to repay the hurt. This is a positive way. So always take your life in a positive direction. Forgiveness only releases us from wounds that would continue to fester if we don't forgive. So if somebody has hurt us, it is said, you don't have to forget. Otherwise, you go again, you will be hurt again. You know, the famous battle between Prithviraj Chauhan and Muhammad Ghori. Prithviraj Chauhan defeated Muhammad Ghori many times. And then he forgave, all right, go. But finally, when Muhammad Ghori won, he had his own nature. And he captured Prithviraj Chauhan. He mutilated his limbs, he blinded him and killed him. So forgiveness doesn't mean that, okay, now I have become vulnerable to be cheated. You should learn the lessons and keep them in mind so that people don't cheat you. But at the same time, you have to release the hurts. That is an important part of growing up spiritually. Actually, that is the most powerful way to grow up spiritually. Forgiveness is the gift that we offer to ourselves. Forgiveness is emphasized in all the religious traditions of the world. Without forgiveness, you can never move ahead in spirituality. In the case of saints, this forgiveness becomes a nature. They don't have to say, that guy is so bad, but I have to forgive. One lady heard sermons on forgiving and she was unable to forgive. Until she was about to die now, she had grown old. And she was having some fatal problems. So the doctor said that you have got only 3 days to live. She called her enemy and said, I forgive you. Only on the condition that I am going to die, because if I am going to live, then I will not forgive you. So that is like a forced kind of forgiveness. Now in the case of saints, that forgiveness becomes the nature. Look at Draupadi. Ashwathama killed 5 of her sons. But Draupadi was such a saintly lady. The sons are dead, they cannot be brought back. Arjun, he bound Ashwathama and dragged him in the presence of Draupadi and said, I will kill him as revenge. So Draupadi said, revenge? Revenge is not a good word. Because revenge is motivated by our own inner frustration. Draupadi said, think about his mother. I understand what it means to a mother when the child dies, because my 5 children have died. I don't want his mother to suffer like that. Release him. Lack of forgiveness comes at a tremendous price. If you harbor a resentment, it will create emotional conflicts It will create inner imbalance. It will even result in health issues, disruption of the digestion, skin problems, and so on and so forth. So, forgiveness is a gift that we bestow upon ourselves. There were 2 inmates in a Nazi concentration camp. They met many years later. The first asked his friend, "Have you forgiven the Nazis for what they did to us?" The friend said, "Yes, I have let it go and moved on in my life." The first said, "I have not forgiven them as yet, and I continue to boil with resentment within myself." The second friend said, "In that case, they still have you in jail. Somebody did bad to us and moved ahead. We are keeping the resentment and continuing to suffer from it." So that is why the saying that resentment is like taking poison and hoping the other guy dies. Now the other guy can even ask for forgiveness. "Please forgive me." But that will not do, because these negative feelings, we will have to release them. Nobody else can do it for us. So forgiveness frees us up. It is preparing us for the journey ahead, the spiritual journey. Because forgiveness immediately enables us to realize that my mind is not determined by the external circumstances. No matter what anybody does, I am free to choose my emotions. Unless we forgive, we are still locked by the environment. And the moment we forgive, we become free. And that is the first step for moving ahead in the process of mind control. So we all want to be peaceful. And the problem is, we keep on making adjustments on the outside for my inner peace. You tell your husband, "If my mother-in-law changes her behavior, only then I can be peaceful." And the mother-in-law says, "If the daughter-in-law can change her behavior, only then I will be peaceful." Everybody wants the other to change to find inner peace. And the fact is, the behavior of others is not in our control. So if we really want to find peace, it must be inside of us. Because if peace is dependent on outer things, it can be snatched away in a moment. But if you want that peace that nobody can snatch away from you, then you have to be equipoised in all kinds of circumstances. Sage Tulsidas says, you know what is the most powerful means of cleansing the heart? He says, "Nindak niyare rakhiye angan kuti chabaya nit sabun pani bina nirmal kare subhaya." Keep a nindak, a critic who repeatedly hurts you. Keep that person in your drawing room and put a tilak on his head. In other words, offer all respect. Yes, please, I am all ears. Tell me what you have in criticizing me. And let that person give vent. As you keep tolerating the hurts, your heart will be cleansed nit sabun pani bina, without soap and without water. So you have to learn to keep forgiving. There are those who don't forgive even God. Why did God do this to me? And they start seething with hatred towards God. But God is interested in purifying our heart. So He will arrange for hurts. He will deliberately arrange in this path of love you are loving him and he is hurting you. Why? Because that is the test of true love. If in love there is no hurt to overcome, there is no love. The test of love is sarvatha dhvansa rahitam satyapi dhvansa karane yadbhava bandhanam yuno sa prema parikirtita, where there is a reason for love to get decimated. Our divine beloved, he is behaving adversely with us, and yet we are continuing to love. That is true love. So, to reach the perfection means to reach that point. Somebody said love means eternal forgiveness. You have to come to the point where you are eternally forgiving. Not eternally getting cheated, but eternally forgiving. What does that mean? That means you don't harbor hurts within. Somebody said, I will not allow anybody to demean my soul. What does that mean? If they hurt me and I have a grudge, I am demeaning my own soul. I will not allow anybody to demean my soul. So let us keep working on our spirituality. Let us move on until we can reach that platform where forgiving becomes a second nature, because it is unproductive to keep resentments. So why keep a thought that is going to hurt us? We should come to the point where forgiving becomes a natural process, and then we will be free. See, just at the risk of repeating the story, I have told it recently of this sage who went up into the Himalayas, and there he started meditating, and the seasons went by until the monsoon came. Now the Indian monsoon, it comes after the earth has been parched for 3 months, and the insects made merry, the frogs were croaking, and this monk sitting in his hut was getting disturbed in his meditation. And he said to himself, don't these creatures know that a monk is meditating inside? Finally, his indignance could be held back no further. He poked his head out of the window and said, quiet! Because he had elevated himself through his meditation, when he spoke, even nature responded, and all the frogs, they turned silent. In that complete lack of sound, the monk sat down to meditate again. But there was again a disturbing sound. And this was not from the outside, but from the inside. His own conscience started pricking. What I did, was it correct? They were just using the vocal box that God has given them. Now, God has given frogs a big vocal box. Until the sound inside just grow bigger and bigger. So he now was obliged. He poked his head out of the window of the hut again and said, begin! All the creatures started making merry, tar tar, pit pit, gaw gaw gaw. So he sat down back to meditate. But this time he was completely peaceful. He had learned to make peace with the outside environment. That is the peace which Lord Krishna is talking about, which is irrespective of sukh and dukh, external happiness and distress. Arjun, those devotees are very dear to me.